Okay, great. So now we begin our debate, our third debate of the evening, Logic Troll versus Kayj. Um, we'll be debating. They'll be debating Doxastic voluntarism is true. Logic Troll is the affirmative, and Kayj is the negation. Logic Troll, you can start with your 7-minute opener, and I will start your timer whenever you say your first word.
Thanks a lot for having me, AR, Coco, did debates. This is a really good thing you guys are doing, and obviously to the judges and my opposition. Your time is really valuable to me, so much love. Hopefully this conversation can be somewhat productive. I think that Kayj and I are on similar terms in good faith, so it should be. I recognize here that the position I'm defending, the idea that we can exercise control over our beliefs, is a minority view in modern academia. The Standard Encyclopedia of Philosophy notes that many philosophers argue against direct doxastic voluntarism. So I concede off the bat that the dominant literature emphasizes the involuntary nature of belief formation. And so I know I'm taking the underdog position here. Yet, I am sincerely compelled by our capacity for conscious, intentional choice, our volition, which seems to shape not only our methodology, but also our beliefs themselves. It's worth noting the asymmetry off the bat here of the burden of proof in this debate. Since I'm affirming that belief is voluntary, I only need to show that exists at least one belief over which we can exercise our control from my position to stand. And by contrast, my interlocutor must maintain that the much heavier claim that every single belief is involuntary, and one clear counterexample would undermine their position entirely. And so in an attempt to explore the areas of belief which may be voluntary, I'll start by criticizing the involuntarist notion that beliefs are binary in terms of their truth value. I'm proposing that they exist on a spectrum of confidence, which we can deliberately calibrate. Think about an on and off light switch compared to a dimmer. Similar to the dimmer on a light, a belief, rather than being true or false, can be more or less illuminated depending on the attention and method we apply to the evidence. Just as a dimmer light allows you to adjust the intensity of a light, we can adjust the strength of our beliefs through weighing counter evidence and calibrating confidence, in other words, adopting rationality. And by doing so, we steer our beliefs towards what is true. Our volition, our choice, is then what transforms passive cognition into truth-directed belief. So to steelman the involuntarist position, I acknowledge that they are correct in emphasizing that our direct control is not over all beliefs in an absolute sense. Their focus is specifically on doxastic voluntarism, meaning control over the content of beliefs themselves, as opposed to control over the reasoning methods that produce them. And from their perspective, we have indirect influence. We can choose our strategies, decide which evidence to attend to, but ultimately the truth of the belief still escapes our direct manipulation. And even under this charitable interpretation of my opposition, the subtleties of human epistemology show that our choices are at the core of our beliefs. Every method reflects some implicit commitments about what counts as valid evidence and what outcomes are acceptable. In other words, method selection is belief-laden and is itself a direct act of choice, which shapes the landscape of beliefs. Beliefs that are downstream, therefore, are at least partially under our control. Anti-voluntarists claim that beliefs simply emerge passively from evidence, but this ignores the causal power of choice in shaping which evidence we attend to directly, which premises we accept, and which counter-arguments we weigh. These are all deliberate choices. We choose how to engage with the evidence. We're not merely influencing our beliefs indirectly, we are exercising direct control over them, even if that control is mediated through a rigorous methodology. Belief is not arbitrary, nor is it outside of our influence. Choice and truth assessment are deeply intertwined, and this is what I would call or coin as a term called truth-directed volition. Rational humans aim not merely to produce beliefs, but to produce beliefs that are true. The advancement of academic culture towards the truth, as opposed to more dogmatic approaches, illustrates that some choices do not reflect rigorous consideration and reason. We can examine the choices people have made throughout history, some advancing our understanding closer to the truth, and others leading us further away. Scientific discoveries, philosophical insights, and technological innovations frequently emerge from deliberate, belief-laden choices that prioritize careful evaluation and methodological rigor. Conversely, choices made without reflection or critical assessment often result in false beliefs. So our capacity for volition and choice also includes the ability to suspend belief temporarily and to withhold judgment while we gather evidence or evaluate competing arguments. And this demonstrates further autonomy over our cognitive states, and that belief formation is not merely passive. We can deliberately pause, examine evidence, and hold off on accepting a claim until we have engaged in a sufficient reflection, sufficiency also being a belief-laden choice. Consider my premises. If volition impacts methodology, and methodology impacts beliefs, then volition impacts beliefs. Volition does impact methodology, which we both agree to, I'm assuming, and therefore volition impacts beliefs. In granting my interlocutor's most charitable assumptions, the causal chain from volition to belief is still preserved, and the claim that humans can exercise control over at least some beliefs stands firm. Acknowledging indirect control over reasoning methods already entails some direct influence over beliefs. So in conclusion, volition, our conscious, intentional choice, shapes not only these methods we employ, but also the beliefs that emerge from them. Even acknowledging the involuntarist emphasis on direct control, the chain from volition to methodology to belief shows that our choices have a direct epistemic impact. Beliefs are not binary. They exist on a spectrum of confidence that we can calibrate, and our capacity to suspend judgment, evaluate evidence, and mediate our endorsements further illustrates the active role our choice plays in belief formation. History shows that deliberate, belief-laden reasoning moves us closer to the truth, while neglecting this agency leads to error. Ultimately, to deny the role of volition in belief formation is to deny rational agency itself, and by embracing the reality of truth-directed volition, we affirm not only our capacity for reasoned thought, but also our epistemic responsibilities in the ongoing pursuit of knowledge. With that, much love.
Okay. Hey, thank you. Appreciate it. All right. So now, Kayj, it's your turn for your opener. We'll set the timer whenever you say your first word.
Right. Thanks, judges. Thanks, host. I'm sad Coco isn't here. It makes me real depressed. Thanks, everybody watching. Appreciate y'all time. All right, so check it out. It's like this. My opponent in his opening gave me an account of belief that I'm going to accept. Right, and that's to say that beliefs are constituted of truth tracking functions. Right, they're made up of the ability to track truth. They're truth norms. Okay, cool. Glad we set that standard. Now, moving from there, that's just to say that my beliefs are constituted that of what we call content or of reasons. Now, on your view, right, logic, the voluntarist view, the thesis is something like like I have the intentional cognitive control to inform my attitudes towards propositions. Right? In the same way that I have the intentional cognitive control, and when I close my eyes, I can imagine a landscape on a beach. Okay, cool. Well, if that's the thesis, but we agree that beliefs are truth tracking, and we agree then that what it means to say that you have beliefs that are voluntary is to say that they're well, at least I understand them to be an immediate response to reason. And presumably that, since we both agree that beliefs are truth tracking, that type of reason is going to be content related reasons. That's just to say that, reasons for thinking the content is true. Okay, well, then the thesis, I believe that P is identical conceptually to saying that P is true. And if I know that P is true, then I can't take any proposition for which is obviously false on content-related reasons and say that I can choose to will it as true. I don't have direct voluntary control. I cannot, in immediate response to reasons, right, the other type of reasons, which are attitude-related reasons, right, that's just to say that holding the belief that P is in virtue of some desire, utility, or goodness about the belief itself, right, I can't do that, or I shouldn't be able to do that. Meaning when if I ask you, is it true that the United States is a U.S. British colony? your answer should be no. But if voluntarism were true, that is to say that my belief can be in response to reasons, then it seems like we'd be able to say yes on the account of attitude-related reasons. But even still, if I offered you $500 billion, you wouldn't be able to tell me that you genuinely believe the U.S. is a British colony. Now, on that account, I agree with my interlocutor that beliefs are on a scale. Okay, I don't care the degree of confidence to which your attitude is towards a proposition, simply that one exists. So what my interlocutor kind of greased over there is that on that account, it seems as if an open concession that if a belief is that like conceptually made up of content-related reasons, where reasons for believing that P is true, my attitudes or attitude-related reasons have nothing to do with that. Right? So I'm not sure what it is that you're arguing outside of that. You mentioned in the view, and my interlocutor mentioned indirect and direct voluntarism, and outright stated he's going to defend direct voluntarism, which is to say that he has direct A to B voluntary intentional control, and then gave examples of indirect control through methodologies. Okay, well, I suppose we'll end it there and we'll get into cross.
You concede your time?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Time for the
Okay.
first round of cross.
You
So-
tell me when the timer is ready.
Yep. I'm ready whenever you are. You go ahead and say your first word. And
Okay, so I appreciate everything you said there in the opening. Do you agree with me that our volition impacts our methodology? We can directly impact through our volition, maybe not beliefs, but our methodology.
Yep.
Okay, and so when you use indirect and direct, and we don't need to get into a semantic dispute, you're not willing to concede in any portion that there may be a direct impact from method to belief?
No, I'm not willing to concede from volition to belief.
Indirect. I don't want to get into a semantic dispute, but I'm trying to picture, maybe you could come up with a good example too. I'm trying to picture.
Sure, here's the example.
Yeah, let's hear it.
When I say direct, I mean an immediate response in favor of reasons. If you tell me, Kayj, imagine a beach, I can, without any external evidence, without any content or without anything at all, I can just close my eyes and imagine it. It seems as if what you're saying is I should first go out and find a picture of a beach, look at the beach, and then just copy the image in my mind.
But the problem I'm having is that although beliefs, like we both agreed, are aimed at truth tracking, our beliefs, like we can define our beliefs, and I agree with you also that our attitudes towards the belief may not necessarily matter. I would say that the definition of belief extends beyond a simple truth tracking mechanism, right? Like when we think of a sunset, the image of a sunset and how true that is, I don't really know what you are claiming to like objectively get at there. Do you understand? Do you understand sort of where so like some beliefs, to make it clear, wouldn't you agree with me that some beliefs, although they're aiming at the truth, are not binary or bimodal? Like there could be a belief about the sunset that isn't necessarily truth apt.
No, I take it that I'm an input-output functionalist about belief. I think that beliefs are that which are in response to immediate reason. Beliefs are in response to reason, where reason is content-related.
The question by defining that into the concept of belief then, though? Because like colloquially, you'd have to agree that the word belief isn't really used in that way.
No, I think a belief, uttered colloquially, is just an attitude towards any given proposition. Is made up by what they might say is experience.
So make the distinction here between the colloquial usage and your usage clear for me, just so I can really wrap my head around it.
The colloquial usage doesn't comment on I suppose, how the belief is informed or how the thing is being informed. They just say that it is a thing towards a proposition. Oh, and then on mine, it's
I'm
obvious.
well. I'm confused as to how that's like a shortcoming of the use of the phrase. Like, why
Well,
is
we can
that?
get
Why
it.
would
So
you
are you
find it
asking me to
more
motivate it?
rigorous? Why would it be more rigorous to accept your alternative non-colloquial usage of this word belief that is only
Well,
in
I think it's
truth
compatible.
absence?
I
Okay.
think the only thing my view does is go as far to extend a specific thing. And I motivate that just by using Williams cases, right? The idea, um, right? If I said this in my opener, if I ask you to imagine something you obviously take to be false on content related reasons, right? The thing on my view which informs belief, and ask you on mere attitude related reasons to believe.
Why couldn't I just decide to suspend belief?
I don't know what deciding to suspend belief means.
Well, like when you agree that there's a spectrum of beliefs, right? And if we were to choose a belief that is low on the spectrum of my confidence, you
I
would
don't think we choose beliefs.
No, I mean out of the set of beliefs I have. I'm just saying out of the set of beliefs I have, let's choose one that is low on my confidence level. Well, I'd be very
Yeah.
willing to suspend belief, right, on that proposition, and you would agree with that.
You're,
So, and
to
that
be
seems
clear,
like a
you're okay.
choice.
So you're
That seems
positing
like
a
a
case.
direct
Are
choice.
you positing a case something along the lines of this, where you're saying, if I'm driving on a road late at night,
Time?
Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
time?
that is time. You
Okay.
can finish your last sentence, Cage, unless you have a
no,
clarifying.
it's fine. I'm gonna
That was my question period. So I'd rather just go
well,
into
I'm
his
gonna expand on
criticism.
it in the cross anyway. So I guess just start the
Okay,
cross
great.
now.
Okay,
Um,
great. So, well, yeah, you
if
can start.
what you're asking me is something like, if I'm driving on a road late at night and there's a sign, a road sign in the distance, and as I come towards it, I can't quite make it out from where I am, but as I get towards it, I start to see familiar things, but right before I can make an apt judgment, all else being equal, there's equal evidence in favor of P and not P. You're saying there's seemingly a choice that I can be made there.
Yeah, I am saying that. Yes.
Okay, well, clearly, if I'm driving on a road late at night, right, and my seemings are insufficient to levy judgment in of themselves, what I'm going to do is index it to my prior happenstances. I would say, oh, it's most likely this, it's most likely that. I don't think that an average person would withstand judgment in such a case. They would levy the judgment that the road sign is a stop sign, and they'd tell reasons why. I've driven on this road before. I've this type of road. It would make sense that this is here. They're just going to index it to, I suppose, what is their causal history. And just so I understand, when I asked you, do you take it to be the case that somebody can reasonably affirm the proposition that they believe the U.S. is a British colony in lieu of attitude-related reasons, is one that's tenable? Do you think that view is tenable?
With you on that right, that no, I don't think someone could out of a whim change their belief towards something like that fact.
In virtue of attitude-related reasons, though, right? If I offered the person, your dead mom can come back to life if you choose to genuinely believe that. Do you think they could? So isn't that good reason to say that attitude-related reasons are not the type of thing that informs belief?
Is on the belief, right? When you agreed that there might be a spectrum of confidence in beliefs, like my confidence towards that fact is very high. But if you put my mom's life on the line for something else, right, then I would be willing to concede my belief. Like I'd
Well,
be
I'm
willing to.
asking. I'm not asking about something. I'm saying on the concept of belief, is it even the type of thing which can constitutively include attitude-related reasons?
Yes, because I would say that's where I'm confused by your notion that you could choose a methodology, because aren't methodologies belief laden? Like, what difference does
No.
it make between how so? So I guess parse that out. Like, how would it make a difference between a methodology when belief methods by themselves are belief laden, and then
Well,
you're
I take
saying,
it that I
okay,
have. I take it that I have a prior seeming, right, a prior belief, and my methodology might be apt at, um, I suppose, aiming towards creating a more content for that belief, right? Reasons to think that the belief is true, right? And maybe my prior, like when I have this prior belief, that's informed from, epistemic reasons or like some type of history that I have relating to me. But on your view, how I view it is like if you walk up to a room and you say, I believe that this dark room in front of me is light. And then you quickly run, turn on the light, go back to where you stood and say, I believe the room is light. That's what I like interpret you saying from your methodology, where you say, oh, I believe this room is light, when it is the case that the room is dark. And you say that belief is informed by attitude related reasons. And then you quickly run over to the light switch, flick it on, and then say, I believe the room is light. Now it's actually being informed given the relevant content related reasons.
respond to that.
Yeah, I'm asking if that's like analogous to your methodology.
Not quite, because the analogy I was using of the dimmer was trying to make a statement about how I view beliefs. When you say that beliefs are this binary or bimodal thing that can be only truth apt, I'm suggesting that although they're bimodal, right, that they're on a spectrum like similar to a dimmer, there's not really an on-off switch when it comes to our beliefs. Like you're kind of assuming that our beliefs have this on-off switch inside of us, where I view it way more like a dimmer,
No,
as in
I'm
like,
not.
mhm.
I'm saying I'm granting your dimmer switch, right? I'm saying there's kind of three types of. You can have like a credence of belief, but all I'm interested in is whether or not that attitude exists, irrespective of the confidence level. I don't see why introducing this confidence level does anything to dissuade how the belief, the mere belief, whether the belief in and of itself exists such that it can be confident or not confident at all.
All right, that's time. All right, we're on to the second round. Logic Troll, we'll start whenever you say your first word.
I'm tempted to respond where you were going there with your line of questioning, but I think I might go back to mine, even though I really appreciate the good faith and how linear this discussion has been. So I hope you take that and maybe we'll reconnect at some point here. But I guess my main concern that I really want to drill home is that we are on the same page when it comes to making choices in terms of method. You and I both agree that when it comes to what method we choose, whether it be deduction, induction, skepticism, or maybe instinct, these are all laden with choices. So when I hear you try to distinguish the difference between a method and a belief, even though you admit that like these are right strategies for belief, I'm not seeing how we can distinguish those out entirely in terms of our control, our volition. It seems like if we can make control over our method, we could at least in some way directly impact our beliefs. Maybe not entirely, right? And maybe not for certain beliefs. So I'm conceding that maybe like certain beliefs are so ingrained in people that they have no control over them, or that the evidence is so undeniable that there's no way to doubt it, right? But nonetheless, our brains are full of multiple different categories of beliefs. And although we again agree that they're like they're aiming at truth in some way or another. Our belief has to connect reality to what we're thinking about. I'm not seeing the disconnection between our choice there, because at every front, both the methodological approach to evidence and how we're considering our own reflections on the facts of the matter seem to be choice laden. And again, some people make those choices better than others, and we can differentiate between those. So that seems to be more evidence of this like choice laden belief system. So I guess my question to you would be, what method do you see yourself employing that later down the road you lose control of like your beliefs?
That's just trivial. Any, oh, I'm lagging. Um, any method would make it such that I don't have direct voluntarism. I'm really curious. It sounds like you're arguing for indirect voluntarism, which is not the burden. The burden is that you have
Well,
direct
no, I guess
voluntarism.
there's a bit of a semantic issue here with the concept of direct and indirect, and I will grant you even the majority of direct impact, but I'm not seeing how you could flesh out absolute falsifiability. It seems like you might be begging the question or defining out. Here's a good question for you. Are you saying what modality are you saying that our choices can't be part of our beliefs? Is it like a logical modality? Are you saying this is logically impossible, or like what modality are you suggest? Is it just a basic contradiction? What's the issue?
Well, the contradiction would be, as I laid out earlier, if you take it, and I'm confused because you take it to be the case that beliefs are informed by content-related reasons such that they're truth tracking. So what the contradiction would be, which I'm not sure what's confusing here, is that if you take it that beliefs are informed by attitude-related reasons, even trivially, if you give a case for which there is a exhaustive amount of evidence such that the content-related reasons indicate that the belief towards this proposition would be unwarranted.
I'm lost. I've lost you now. I'm not trying to be rude. I want to track where I can tell this is important. So go a little slower.
What you're arguing for?
Yeah, sorry.
What you're arguing for is indirect voluntarism, which is to say that I need to go get something, or I need to go get reason for believing that it's true content-wise prior to affirming genuinely that P is true. I need to go out and do some methodology in the world to gather the content such that I believe P is true. And what I'm saying to you is that a voluntarist, in the way that we agreed, is not that person. That voluntarist says, I don't need a methodology such that I can affirm the content, such that I have reason to think the content is true and therefore believe it.
Wait,
Attitude.
if I can reclaim my time just quickly, sorry to cut you off, Kayj. You're doing a really good job there, and I was the one who told you to slow down. And I only have 10 seconds left, so that's probably pointless anyways. But doesn't it seem as though those methods aren't necessarily from the I lost my train of thought a little bit.
You could finish the question and the Kayj could answer.
I lost my train of thought a little bit there, so I'll let Kayj go into his cross exam. Sorry,
Okay, great. So we're on the second round of the cross. Go ahead, Kayj. Whenever you say first word.
Yeah, I want to be very, very clear that I'm not trying to beg the question. So, on my account of belief, I take belief or doxastic attitude to just be, or doxastic state, right, to just be an attitude towards the proposition. I don't think that beliefs are propositional. So when you say beliefs are bimodal, what I interpret you saying is that I have some degree of confidence in belief, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. I think people use that in folk language all the time. What I have a problem with is when somebody says, or when we're presented with this case where all else equal, if doxastic voluntarism were true, then I should be able to, in immediate response to reason, change the attitude I have towards a belief. But if it's the case that all else equal, content-related reasons are symmetrical, but there exists an attitude-related reason, like desiring your dead mom to come back to life, desiring $500 billion, then that would tip the scales if voluntarism is true, such that you can change the attitude that the U.S. is a British colony from false to true. It's not the case that we can do that, even given attitude-related reasons, which is just motivation to say that on belief accounts, it's more so motivated to say that they're only informed by content-related reasons. And I think you agree with me, Logic, and tell me if I'm wrong, it's not rhetorical, when you say that I have original belief, and then I go out in the world and I do some methodology, and the content of that methodology affirms my belief. Now, my question more aptly is, if the methodology that I embark on after having this belief says that the content of my belief is false, do you take it that I can still hold the content of my belief as true, all else equal? Then that would be good reason to say that direct voluntarism is false, because if it were true, then I should have attitude-related reasons, and I can change if they inform my belief, even trivially, even by 0.00001, it should be able to change my belief.
Well, but I'm hesitant to respond. Is there a question there? Do you want me to just kind of freely respond?
Well, I'm just asking. I'm more so. I guess this is what I'm at. I'm asking, how does me having a belief and then embarking on a methodology such that to gather the content of my belief, such that I have reason to believe the content of my belief is true, and therefore reifying the belief, how does it follow from that that direct voluntarism or direct doxastic voluntarism is true? That seems like good reason to think that involuntarism is true.
I was muted there. Sorry, I was talking to my muted mic. I think it has to do with the fact that you've started with belief rather than methodology. So when you say you have a belief, you start with a belief, and then you employ a method to assess the truth aptness of that belief. Well, we're looking at it a little backwards there, because I'm suggesting that first you start with a methodology. You could, for instance, like a Cartesian method, right, would doubt and be skeptical of all propositions. And so you just start from square zero, which would be no beliefs, right? Do you hear?
Yeah, tabula rasa theories are compatible with my view, and actually,
Well,
they might support my view further.
They probably do. Like I already agreed. Like I already said in my opener, I know that in the literature, my view is the underdog one for sure. So I'm contending with my own intuitions here, and that's why I do appreciate you taking the time to kind of work through this with me. But yeah, again, like, if we were to start with a method that doubts all belief, and that seems to take into the consideration the belief that we value doubting, or if you wanted to say any method that's truth apt, it seems like the belief there that we're starting with is that the truth is somehow valuable, right? So when we're using the method, my point here is, like, while you're using the method to assess beliefs, you're using confirmation bias to confirm the original belief, which is the method. But you just want to define out, and this is how you're kind of begging the question, you just want to define out methodologies as not belief laden. And I don't understand why that's
No, wait, no, you define them as choice laden, which I agreed to. I do think that the way I choose to measure this object, what object I choose, the survey sample I choose, those are all choices, but those aren't informing my belief. The content being true, right, and my exposure to it informs my belief.
That is time.
So
Okay.
this the last round, right?
So we're on. Yep, yeah, exactly. We're on the last round, and 5 minutes to you.
5-minute rounds. I thought they were 3 the whole time. No wonder
I
they're
know, right?
dragging on. Fucking. Holy.
All right, man. God. Yeah. So we'll start the timer whenever you say your first word.
Okay, I didn't just define a method as choice laden. I defined it as belief laden. So do you agree that methodology, our choice in methodology, is a belief laden choice, right?
I'm not entirely sure what you mean. Like a belief laden choice?
Okay. Yeah, when we assess, before we have any beliefs, right? Let's say we're in a cell, and we've employed the Cartesian method of skepticism right to the root bottom, and we are in basically existential crisis. We're so skeptical of everything, we don't know what to believe at all. And now we consider at rock bottom what the best methods for constructing our new beliefs are. So we could go through skepticism, right? We could go through a deductive method and an inductive method. And so which one we choose, or we could just go by our instincts. That's less of a choice, I'd say. We're not really making the choice there, right? If we just instinctually react. But if we sit back and go through the methods, it seems as though which one we choose is going to be based on a belief. Like a belief in the truth or something. A belief in the value of the choices,
truth. If you're asking me, our choices are informed by our beliefs, yeah, but I don't think I choose to inform my beliefs. I think beliefs inform our choices.
Okay. I would probably push back on that too, but I want to stick on this
I think a religious
issue. just hold on for a second. I want to stick on the methodological issue. I just want to make sure that when we say method and what method we choose, you concede that there's some sort of bias there, right, in which method we choose. If you want to call it a belief, we don't have to, but you at least bias, right? There's a bias in the methodology we choose.
Yeah, I think my beliefs will inform my behavior. Yeah, I agree with that.
You know, because methodologies aren't necessarily like behavioral, right?
Well, no, I'm saying like my belief. If I believe that God exists, I'm going to embark on a journey that which is favorable to that conclusion. If I'm a motivated reasoner, but if I'm not a motivated reasoner, which I don't think deductive logic or prop logic or anything like that favors,
right.
then no, I'm not.
That's right. Well, but deductive logic still favors some notion of belief, right? For instance, the belief that the truth is valuable.
Yeah, but epistemic norms favor my hypothesis that because if it was the case that we could, in immediate response to attitude-related reasons, change our beliefs, then epistemic norms are just going to be violated left and right because I don't care about truth. But we do care about truth, and epistemic norms do exist.
Everyone does. That was my point about history, right? Well,
no, but you do.
I know, like you and I are biased though, because we exist in the academic community and we love discourse, but not everyone does. And furthermore, there's lots of dogmatic institutionalized people, right, who come on and think that their approach is the actual academic one, and they have no room in their heart for perceiving truth through a deductive lens like you do.
Are you saying that the resistance to change beliefs favors a voluntarist conclusion?
Say the first part again.
A resistance to change beliefs favors a voluntarist conclusion.
A resistance to change
Yeah,
beliefs.
like, because if I tell a racist man in South Kentucky or South Kansas or Kansas in general...
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Yes.
Well, I actually take it that it's probability raising on my view, because they might actually have the desire to be a good person and to be inclusive and change, but they can't get rid of these racist commitments they have because of their content-related reasons.
To the spectrum of confidence, right, and how certain beliefs have been, like I already admitted that maybe a psychopath and his beliefs can't be changed, and he literally cannot make the choice to change his racism or whatever. I've already conceded that. But if you were to say, what's your favorite ice cream flavor? And I put in front of you a bunch and you sit back and consider it, right? And then I test the limits of your belief. We can see that most people don't hold their beliefs in this binary system, and they cross over their commitments, and beliefs in terms of the colloquial usage is really widespread. I don't know how to really adapt the academic perspective because it would make me deterministic in my thinking. I would have no freedom of choice over what I believe.
And that is time. Okay, and then on to Kayj's final cross-examination.
Okay, I suppose I really want to. I think I've hammered pretty hard on the content-related reasons and the inform your belief. But we agree that attitude-related reasons aren't a factor in making, informing belief. And it's content-related. Content is reason for thinking the proposition is true, which is divorced from my attitudes. What it means to have intentional control might be, isn't sometimes entirely a result of my attitudes, right? I desire to imagine.
If I may interrupt, do you mind if I interrupt for clarification there? I'm sorry, it's your time, bro. I do think that there's a bit of problems with what you just said about, right, like how the attitude and the content. So the content, I'm making the claim that because of the limitations of method, the content is still attitude laden. You cannot separate out attitudes and content like you are doing. This dichotomy.
No, reasons, beliefs constitutively, like the thing that make up the statement, I believe that P, is content-related reasons for thinking that P is true. And what you're trying to say is that in addition...
go ahead.
But what you're trying to say as a voluntarist, a direct voluntarist, is saying, no, it's not just content-related reasons for thinking that P is true, but also attitude-related reasons for if P were true, I'd desire it, it'd be useful, or it would be good. Like, right? Like that's the second commitment you're adding on. Because if you're just agreeing with me that it's just content-related reasons, then you're not a voluntarist. At least a direct voluntarist.
I'm having problems with how we get to the content without some bias method that employs a attitude. In order to gather content through any rational methodology, there seems to be an attitude involved, mainly towards the truth.
Yeah, but I can agree to that. But you've already conceded that if the results or the conclusions of my labor result in P, reasons for thinking that P is false, then I should, right? I'd be committed that I should update my belief that P is false. A voluntarist would say, no, even still, if the content-related reasons indicate that P is false, you still have attitude-related reasons for thinking that P is true, such that you need not be obligated to thinking that P is false. But anyway, this is all
I
we already
wouldn't
hammered really
concede
hard on
quite to
this.
that. I wouldn't concede.
We already hammered really hard on
okay.
this. But I want to know, you affirm that I have the intentional control, right? The deliberate control of my beliefs, right? Or at least one of my beliefs.
Yes.
But you agree that
for instance, I could give a good example how much I love myself. I'm in complete control of those thoughts.
You're in control of which emotion? Well, I'm not sure how that. I take a belief to be an attitude towards a proposition. I take love to be a non-doxastic attitude, which is just to say I don't think it's an attitude towards any proposition.
What about an attitude, like what if I changed it from love to how much I like myself, or how much I value myself as a person, something like that?
I think you'd just be reporting on your preferences psychologically, not attitudes towards a proposition. There might be like,
okay. What if I went all the way to how rational I was? What if I went all the way to how rational I was? Like my attitude towards how rational of a thinker I am.
How rational you are, or
yeah.
Well, the proposition
my belief
would be,
about myself.
Logic Troll is a rational thinker.
Yes.
Right. The proposition would be Logic Troll is a rational thinker, or something like that. Well, presumably you'd have content-related reasons for believing it, and not just your attitudes. But
those two
anyways,
in terms of that belief.
Well, in terms of that belief, if you were a rational thinker, there'd be clear instances, right, for reasons for believing that P is true, whether it's your prior behavior, whether it's your prior behavior being the best one I can articulate right now. If you had attitude,
hinges on how rational I actually am, bro. So if I'm not rational to begin with, how am I going to assess any of that content?
Reasons for thinking that P is true would imply that the statement "I believe that P" is identical to saying that I take it that P is true. Yes. But if you agree to that logic, then you're not committed. Then you would be against people who think that attitude-related reasons are factors in doxastic calculations, because then the statement "I take it that I believe in P" is not conceptually identical to P being true. Or I take it that P is true. Sorry.
And that's time. We're moving on to closers. Logic Troll. We'll start your timer whenever you say your first word.
I'm not going to be that
3
long.
minutes.
Okay, 3 minutes. Thank God.
You don't have to use the whole 3 minutes.
I know. And I know probably the chat and the panel is lingering on. You guys have done a lot of debates and you have a lot upcoming. So I just want to make it clear here that for the most part, this was very good faith. We butted heads a little bit on semantics. But in turn, we made a lot of ground on conceding each other on how much we agree with each other here. But really drilling home the point that I do think we have voluntary control and choice over our beliefs. Maybe not all of them. Certainly not all of them, right? There are some, especially for some people, that are out of their control. But beliefs are a wide-ranging category, the category of beliefs. And so, not trying to get too bogged down into the semantics of what a belief is, I think we had a really good discussion in terms of doxastic voluntarism. And ultimately, I did concede, I'm in the underdog position here. All of the literature I read was basically against my position. So trying to coin a new term, come up with an argument here was a challenge for me. And you taught me a lot throughout this Kayj. I think the attitude versus content distinction was not one that I studied in my references. So that caught me off guard a little bit there. And yeah, what a wonderful discussion. Props to the host. Thank you, Coco. Thank you, AR. Day of debates. Much love. Logic Troll out.
Appreciate it. All right. On to Kayj's closer. Go ahead, Kayj.
Came into this debate with so much rhetorical jabs planned, but then he was so kind. So look, I'll be concise. Thank you, host. Thank you, judges. Thank you, Logic. I appreciate your time more than you know. But again, it's like this. If voluntarism was true, I'm fine with even granting his opener that at least one of his beliefs he'd have a direct voluntary control over, which is to say that we don't have just pure content-related reasons for belief, but some attitudes. But it's not the case that our attitudes are a factor in doxastic calculations. I motivated that with the whole, bringing your mom back to life and $500 billion view. Still, you can't choose to believe that the U.S. is a British colony, and the reason we can't is because beliefs are constitutively made up of content-related reasons. That is to say, the reasons for believing that P is true. I'm not going to lie, I heard a lot of, we agree that beliefs are truth tracking, which is to say that we can't, they're not just some type of function of our desire, right? There's something greater than that. We agree that a belief is an attitude towards any given proposition. It just seems like a lot of the points, and even on the counterpoints about methodologies and forming all of that stuff, I just take it that they're favoring my view as being true. But even still, I appreciate the time, and I appreciate the debate, and thank you, Logic. That's it. Kayj out.
Guys.
All right, man. And that concludes the debate. So, judges, whoever wants to start, give your critique.
I think it's Friction's turn.
All right, Friction.
Yeah. This is definitely going to be the closest one of the debate so far. I was just as a side remark, I was a little bit unsure. It seemed like at the beginning, Logic Troll was arguing for any sort of doxastic voluntarism, including indirect. That's what I took the methodology point to be in favor of, right? Because we have direct control over methodology, and then the methodology influences or can influence our beliefs, and so we have indirect control over our beliefs. But maybe if someone wants to comment after, if that was the point there, I don't know. And then I guess it took a turn, and the actual disagreement was just over direct voluntarism, and the way that argument seemed to be evolved was into not about that sort of indirect control, but about actually the choice over method is also, because method involves it's belief laden, choice over belief, and if we have direct choice over method, then we have direct choice over belief. That's the way I understood how that changed. I think there was a change, and the disagreement there was
some opening remarks, including the direct distinction, and I guess I should have done a better job at accounting for that. But I did actually, in my opening remarks, make that clear that I was going after direct, but he really honed in on it, so I obviously didn't make that as clear as I should have.
Right, good. And then, fine. And then the disagreement there was really, although it seemed to get a little bit lost at times, took it to disagreement is in whether methods that we might directly choose are belief laden in that way. I didn't see much of a great resolution on that, but that seems like an interesting debate on that topic. And then, it seemed to me that some of the examples for discussion weren't that helpful in either way. I mean, I don't know. The examples where it's like, well, you can't seem to choose this particular case to believe otherwise, say that the US is a British colony or whatever. It's not clear, and I think this was pointed out that undermines the voluntarist position, because of course you could think that voluntarism is true, but there's some cases or some people for which a belief like that I'm not going to be able to have control over. But on the other side, the cases where it seemed to me that it was kind of just asserted that, like, well, it's in cases where it's the person's less confident one way or the other, they can sort of by will move themselves to the front of it. But maybe that could have been explored further. Why I think that those cases like that, or maybe try to do it. I'm not sure. And then there was this whole discussion on content versus emotional or other sort of reasons like that. I was a little bit unclear about that in general, because like I'm presumably if you think that there's direct voluntary control of your beliefs, then you could do it for any sort of reasons, right? It could be because of the content. It's not quite clear to me why it would have to be in non-content related reasons, but maybe that could be explored further. Frankly, I'm not actually sure how to judge this, because it was very close to me. I might give it slightly to Kayj overall. I thought some of the points were a bit more clear, but it was very close. It really piqued me away. I'd be surprised if it's a split decision.
Okay. Thank you, Friction. All right, Mitch or Flenser, don't jump out at once.
Yeah, that was well done, both of you. That was really good. It's like my favorite debate of the night so far, definitely. So on openers, I think I will give that to Logic, just because Kayj, I think you spent a bit of time addressing Logic's opener, and it's it felt like you should have saved. I think you did eventually like kind of cut yourself off and say that you will save it. But yeah, some of that just wasn't appropriate for the opener. But that's a nitpick, really. It was both really close. In terms of the cross, Logic, I feel like you completely lost your initial point. Like, as soon as Kayj hit you with the, what was it? Let me go. It was like the signpost, right? As you're approaching a signpost, because you were talking about levels of confidence and how you can, because you were arguing for like indirect and direct realism, the methodological, like the choice ladenness of the methods that we pick was pertinent. So when Kayj brought up the signpost and how we'd refer to memory, how we, driving down the road, you see a yellow signpost, you've driven down it before, whatever, you could have said, yeah, but you're choosing, the method that is that the appropriate method? There's going to be some kind of bias towards like the truth there. But instead, then you kind of started to concede. And I feel like that's like progressively through the rounds, you lost your initial point to argue for both indirect and direct. And so, yeah, I mean, really good points throughout. It would just be nitpicking throughout each round, but yeah, I think because of that, because you lost that initial your initial point, and then you didn't pick it back up, yeah, I'd give it to Kayj.
Okay, thank you, Mitch.
That's to both of you. That was definitely the best debate of the evening. Logic, great opening. I mean, really strong framing of the debate. I thought it was you put a lot of effort into it, and it definitely showed. Kayj, it did seem like you were just kind of responding to that. It didn't seem like there was like a super cohesive thesis that you were going to be forwarding. But then the cross examinations, I think Mitch pointed out, I think a really good example that I think you failed to take advantage of. I thought that was probably your strongest rhetorical point. When you asked him, well, we can just choose to suspend belief if our confidence is low. And that seems like a choice. But then, yeah, I mean, you really kind of let Kayj set the terms of the debate, like really frame it and focus it on what he wanted to focus on. So I think overall it was, I'd have to also give it to Kayj, but it was really, really good. I really, really enjoyed that debate. One thing that I thought Kayj did really effectively was he answered all of the examples that you had and turned them around and talked about how they were actually supporting his view about Doxastic voluntarism. And I thought that was just rhetorically very effective. I think you can nitpick on whether it was true or not, but I thought it was an effective tactic for sure. So yeah, great job, both of you.
I appreciate you.
Thank you guys so much. The honest feedback is I take it so to heart, not in a bad way. Like, thank you so much. So fun. What a way to spend an evening. Kayj, you're a legend. AR, Coco.
Don't leave yet. Don't leave yet. We have questions up.
That was really fun.
And we're gonna bring the polls up too. Herbal, please put the poll up for us, please.
Pull me back. Bring me
right,
back.
and,
Don't listen to the judges, man. The judges don't know shit. I take back everything I said. Vote for me.
I definitely gave you points for how nice you were, so I'll take those back too. It wasn't.
Dude, it was so fucking hard. I had so many like rhetorical. Look at my opening, because my entire opening was the first half was like substantive retorts, and then the last half, I literally have written here, call his position dumb fuckery, and I just didn't want to do that.
You should have. Well, it was productive because of it. I learned a lot. I'm pretty, unbeknownst to me, I'm actually pretty passionate about this topic. I haven't really looked into the literature as much as I did for this debate, but apparently I'm like pretty invested in this position, even though, yeah, it is the underdog position. So
to be, and you'll be fine.
I was really hoping you weren't reading. Well, there was this one paper on Phil Papers I found, and he basically goes over all of the involuntarist objectives, sufficient retorts to them, and I'm like, if he finds this, I'm fucked. So it's like, there's no way.
definitely didn't find that.
I gotta find that paper. It's Kayj's kryptonite.
2002 paper? Bonjour. Kayj is like red barring.
No, it was by.
Okay. How old is it?
Oh, fuck, I am.
How old is it?
That's what you did.
Oh, it was new.
Damn. All right, Jeff, you have any questions?
A question this time. I'll lead with a little bit. This is definitely not my area of study. I don't even know the technical definition of doxastic voluntarism, but as I understood based on the debate, we're simply talking about whether or not you choose to believe what you believe.
Yep.
Is that accurate?
Yep.
So I would argue that we choose everything that we believe. And certainly, so logic, I'm actually devastated that all three judges went for Kayj. And Kayj, I mean no disrespect to you, but I didn't understand a single word you said the entire debate. It may be my fault because I don't study philosophy or whatever it is we're talking about, but I didn't understand anything that you said. And I entered this debate with it. So let me go ahead and ask my question. So my question really to Kayj is, who or what forced you to believe that Santa Claus is just a children's story? That's not true. Who or what forced you to believe whatever it is you believe about Santa Claus? I'm assuming you don't believe he's true.
All the relevant content that suggests the proposition Santa Claus exists is false.
So that, to me, you just admitted that you chose, based on the evidence, to not believe in Santa Claus.
The evidence is not my attitude, desire, will.
You got wrecked, Kayj.
No, but so being convinced on the basis of evidence, that's not obviously itself enough to be like choosing the belief, right?
Yes,
if I'm
it
convinced
is.
the sky's blue, Is it?
If
You think
you
choose
review
to
the
get
evidence
evidence?
and you determine based on your logical, rational evaluation of the evidence that you believe it's more likely than not that Santa Claus is just a fictional story, then you chose to interpret the data the way that you did.
No,
It's just agreeing with me, but in longer words.
it's not clear that it's you choosing to interpret it that way. You ended up understanding it that way and being convinced one way or the other. But it's another thing that there was a sort of act of will to say, okay, I'm going to decide to believe it, or I'm going to decide not to believe it. It seems to me that's a bit more than just being convinced on the basis of the evidence and the reasoning.
So the only way that that your choices are not voluntary is if something controls your mind. Something outside of yourself controls your mind. And I don't think that anything outside of ourselves controls us.
There's things that you do mentally and otherwise that are not by something else controlling your mind, but also not a matter of direct will, right? We do things all the time. We become convinced of things. We end up having certain feelings and experiences, and these are just things that we do, but they're not a matter of direct control. Often.
But you can. So people who believe in ridiculous, nonsensical things, they choose to believe in ridiculous, nonsensical things. They choose to not look for the evidence. They choose not to be open-minded. They choose to believe whatever their mama told them to believe, or whatever they were. So even children, when they are raised to believe that Santa Claus is real and their parents trick them and bring out the presents on Christmas morning, when they turn 12 or 13 years old, and one of their friends tells them, hey, you know, Mom, Santa Claus is just a joke, right? And they're like, what? I thought he was real because I trusted my mama. You see, it was a choice that child trusted his mama, and that child was...
No, guys, please. Look, we have enough time. Bring him back up. Please. No. Bring him back up. I'm sorry, Jeff. I'm sorry.
So, I mean, I don't have to belabor it. I'm not debating it, but I would argue that all choices are voluntary.
Jeff, do you think you could choose to believe in Santa Claus now?
So I think that's not even the point. So I choose to base my beliefs on rational, evident things that are hashed out by the evidence. And, you know, even Christians will say they choose to believe because they think it's true. But in both cases, both the Christian and the non-Christian is choosing to believe their belief. They're just basing it on different...
Wait, that's an identical statement. I said in my argument to say that I believe that P is to say that I think that P is true. You just repeated the same thing.
Well, so I believe that both Kayj and Logic believe the same thing. They're just arguing with different words.
No.
I don't believe either Kayj or Logic believes that something outside of themselves forces them to believe anything.
Okay. Do you have any more questions?
Yeah.
No, that's all.
Much love, Jeff.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. All right, bring it up, Sage. But wait, where's Sage? Okay, Sage is next. Mark, you have any questions for Logic Troll or Sage?
Hey, what's up?
Sorry,
I
Mark.
just have a
Wait,
couple.
no, hold on, Sage,
I just have a
Sage,
couple.
Hold on.
Oh, go ahead.
Wait. Mark is next. Hold on, wait. But Mark, what you said?
I'm just waiting until.
Can we just bring you down because we need room for like? Can we bring you down because we need room for like the guests that want to ask questions? I'm sorry. All right, go ahead, Sage.
Comments for the debaters. So, Logic, in your opening, you said that all you would have to do in order to win the debate is to provide one example of a belief that was chosen, and then throughout the debate, after giving yourself that path to winning, you never gave an example. So I think that like really hurt you. As far as Kayj, I think you did really well on everything except your opening, which I guess is what happened since you had to change it. You were a little jargon heavy, not as jargon heavy as you usually are, so good job on that, but it was a little difficult for some in the audience to understand what your points were. and that's it.
I think it was Flenser that said
Try
that,
and use them.
Kayj did a really good job of when I provided an example, basically like turning it around on me. But yeah, I had some room there to really drive home like a great example, and I probably fell short in that. But I did provide a few, and yeah, Kayj was just able to turn around. I also liked what Mitch said about I dropped the ball on the sign example. I could have responded to that with my argument. So yeah, the examples were poorly handled on my end.
Lots of examples were given. It's just Kayj handled them.
Like a wealth of it wasn't fucking hard to find all of the sort of objections or arguments he'd make, and then like 17 objections from 17 people from 17 times on how that view is false, stupid, and shouldn't be listened to.
All right, so Kevin, do you have a question?
Yeah,
Just to believe those
I'm just coming in there, and thanks for having me up. My name is Kevin.
Do you have a question for the interlocutors that debated?
I think are we all Christians here?
No, sorry. This is a debate, and we're asking. Guests are coming up to ask questions on the debate that just happened.
Okay, so
Sorry,
My God, he just had questions.
that was the mods, man.
Christian here, right?
Oh my God. Anyways, all right. The next debate, man.
To Detroit, on the views or motivations that I gave, do you find them vague or unclear on how they support an involuntarist position? Is he awake?
Friction. Kayj asking a question.
He just died.
Right. Hello?
I don't know. Mikri.
Speak
Were you here
fucking
for the
English,
debate?
dumbass.
What you saying?
Look, speak fucking English.
All right. Thank you for coming up.
That's certainly interesting comment.
When does the next debate start?
You're late.
I know. I was fighting heaven and hell to get here.
What did Jesus whip his nutsack out? Like, what the fuck do you mean fighting heaven and hell?
I had to deal with like families.
The next
Okay,
debate
I
is
grant
with the next debate is with Placide and Mark Allen.
Stop calling him that. It doesn't even roll off the tongue nicely.
Is it Saul? Do I say Saul?
Well, yeah, at least Saul is like a name. When I say Placide, I think of placid dick. Like, just Jesus Christ.
That's wild, bro. Because I don't even.
You're thinking placid, not placid, but
Yeah, see, that's the fucking thing.
Jeez, no, he prefers placid, I think. So.
All right, fuck it. Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. What's up?
If later in the tournament you end up going against Divinity, can you promise me to do a topic on like capitalism or economics or something?
The reason I didn't debate you on economics is because I didn't think I had a wealth of knowledge such that I could debate it. Like,
you might be cornered into that position as the rounds go on, though.
Honestly, fucking sick because I have Marxist intuitions, but I'm like, I don't know enough about it.
I have a question for you, Kayj.
Anyways,
So,
can you drop me for the algorithm, AR?
Say what again?
Basically, Kayj.
What was that? All right, what were you saying, Coco?
Oh, connected to my Ferrari.
Oh no, I didn't say anything. I was just wondering what time to start.
You were breaking up. You're breaking up. What time does the next debate start?
Oh, yeah.
10:30. 10:30. In a half hour.
In my You and my Lamborghini.
I'm trying to see if he wants to go now. Let me see if he wants to. Cause I know that Mark is here. I'm gonna see.
Half an hour.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if he comes earlier. 1 second. Let
Where
me
did
see
the
if I
fucking
can.
time come from? You planned this to a T.
I did plan it to a T, but
Oh.
the thing is, you guys actually started earlier.
Do you believe